The phone buzzed against the kitchen counter at 2:17 a.m., a single vibration that sliced through the silence like a scalpel. Mark's eyes snapped open on the couch where he'd fallen asleep waiting for Sarah to come home from her girls' night. The screen lit up with her name, but the preview line beneath it turned his blood to ice. "I'm pregnant, but I'm telling Derek it's his. We deserve his money." He sat up so fast the room tilted. The living room lamp still glowed from earlier, casting long shadows across the coffee table littered with unpaid bills and the ultrasound photo from their first try. 12 weeks, heartbeat fluttering like a trapped moth. His thumb hovered, trembling, then swiped. The thread unfolded like a confession in reverse. Sarah's text to her best friend Jenna, spilled across 3 months. First the panic, late. 2 tests. Positive. Then the calculations. Derek was here the weekend Mark worked nights. Then the cold, surgical decision, he'll pay. Private schools, trust funds, the life Mark can't give us. Emojis followed. Moneybags, champagne, a winking face that looked to Mark like a scream. His lungs forgot how to work. The house smelled faintly of the lasagna he'd reheated at midnight, now congealing under foil. Somewhere upstairs their cat, Pickles, knocked a toy against the baseboard. Ordinary sounds that suddenly felt obscene. Mark stood, knees cracking, and climbed the stairs one deliberate step at a time. Phone clutched like evidence. Sarah's door was cracked. Moonlight striped the duvet where she lay on her side. One arm flung over the empty half of the bed that used to be his before the fights about money drove him to the couch. Her breathing was soft, almost childlike. He watched the rise and fall of her shoulder and tried to locate the woman he'd married 5 years ago in the campus coffee shop. The one who'd stolen his scarf in December and kissed him under library fluorescence. He must have made a sound, a choke, a whisper, because her eyes fluttered open. "Mark." Sleep thickened her voice. "What time is it?" He held the phone toward her, screen angled so the messages glowed between them like a blade. Sarah blinked, focused, and the color drained from her face in a single visible wave. She pushed up on an elbow. "That's private. Private." The word scraped out raw. "You're carrying my child and planning to pawn it off on your ex for cash. And I'm invading your privacy?" She sat fully now, knees drawn to her chest, the oversized t-shirt, his t-shirt, riding up to reveal the faintest curve where their future had begun. "It's not what you think." "Then enlighten me." He heard his own voice crack like cheap plaster. "Because right now it looks like you decided our baby's college fund should come from the guy who dumped you for a yacht." Sarah's gaze flicked to the ultrasound on the nightstand, then away, as if the image burned. "Derek has means. We have debt. The furnace is dying, Mark. The credit cards are maxed. You work doubles at the shop and still come home smelling like brake fluid. I'm scared." "Scared?" He laughed, a sound that hurt his throat. "I'm terrified every day I won't be enough. But I thought we were terrified together." She reached for him. He stepped back. The distance felt galactic. "I was going to tell you," she said. "After the paternity test. If it's yours." "If." The room spun. "You don't even know?" "I think it's yours. The dates, but Derek was." She stopped, cheeks blotching red. "There was one night. You were gone. I was drunk and lonely and he texted happy birthday. Gorgeous, like nothing had changed." Mark's knees buckled. He sank onto the cedar chest at the foot of the bed. The one they'd bought at a flea market the summer they moved in, sanding it together while arguing over paint colors. "How long have you been plotting this?" Silence stretched, thick as the August humidity still trapped in the walls. Finally, "Since the second line appeared." He stared at her stomach, trying to reconcile the life they'd celebrated. Tiny onesies folded in a drawer, a crib still in its box in the garage, with this calculated fraud. "You were going to let another man raise my child. Watch him cut the cord. Teach him to ride a bike. And I'd what? Wave from the sidelines while you cash checks." Tears tracked down her face, but her jaw set. "You make it sound cruel. I make it sound like survival." "Survival?" He gestured at the ultrasound again. "That's a heartbeat, Sarah. Not a lottery ticket." She flinched. Pickles slunk into the room, tail low, sensing the fracture. Mark scooped the cat against his chest, burying his face in fur that smelled of cedar shavings and home. "I need air." He stumbled downstairs, out the back door into the yard where dawn was only a rumor. The grass was cold and wet, dew soaked his socks. He sat on the picnic table they'd built from pallets, the one that wobbled because they'd measured wrong and laughed about it for weeks. Overhead, the sky bruised from black to violet. Minutes or hours later, time had liquefied. He heard the screen door creak. Sarah stood on the porch in his t-shirt and bare feet, arms wrapped around herself. "I deleted the thread," she said quietly. "Told Jenna never to mention it again." He didn't look up. "Doesn't erase the screenshots I took." She descended the steps, gravel crunching. "I'm keeping the baby, Mark. Whatever you decide. But I need to know. Can you forgive a moment of panic? Or is that moment the whole marriage now?" He studied the horizon where the first bird sliced the sky. The question wasn't simple. Love and fury braided so tightly, he couldn't tell where one ended and the other began. He thought of the nights he'd rubbed her feet after 12-hour shifts, the way she hummed when folding laundry, the promises whispered in the dark after negative tests month after month. Finally he spoke, voice hoarse. "I don't need a paternity test. Tomorrow. And if it's mine, we're selling the truck to pay a real furnace guy. No more secrets. No more Derek. You choose us or you choose the con. But you don't get both." Sarah's shoulders shook with sobs that sounded like surrender. She crossed the yard, knelt in the wet grass, and rested her forehead against his knee. "I choose us," she whispered. "I'm sorry doesn't cover it, but it's the only word I have." Mark stared down at the part in her hair, the same part he'd kissed 1,000 mornings. His hand hovered, trembling, then settled on her head, light, tentative, a question more than absolution. The baby kicked. He felt it through her scalp, a tiny fist against his palm. Proof of life, proof of fracture. Proof that some mornings the sun still rises even when the world has cracked in half. Behind them, the kitchen light flickered on, automatic timer, indifferent to heartbreak. Pickles wound between their ankles, purring like nothing had changed. Mark closed his eyes and tried to remember how to pray.